Imagine 20 tents similar to this one. Some red, some white, some brown or blue. Imagine a stage and an area for a bird of prey show. At the first year of the Renaissance Festival, you start in the Tulsa Metropolitan area. In a few years, imagine 40 tents, 60, 80 or more, 3 stages or more, an area for trebuchets, jousting, and archery, real archery, where you could have competitions, not just have 20-pound little draw bows that you can shoot at a little target. How does one do this? The proper planning, a good board, ample funding for advertising, and also the proper location. In this video, I will present to you several locations in the Tulsa metropolitan area where one could start a Renaissance festival. Some of the sites have had other festivals and fairs with them before, some medieval, some Renaissance and Scottish, and other types as well. So most of them are able to handle a festival of some size. With proper advertising and planning, if you're able to get just 1% of the Tulsa metropolitan area's population, you could have 80,000, that is 80,000 attendees at your fair. In the description below, I have links to all of the parks departments you would need to contact for the different locations. And I also have 3 links to videos I've created on how to start and run a Renaissance festival, even here in the Tulsa Metro. So join me on this adventure, and I would be happy to help you should you start a Renaissance festival. I've been on the boards of several myself. I have friends that have been on boards of others and actively participate in others that would like to help as well. One tip I can give now, aside from the other ones I have on my videos, do not name your festival after the town or the county that you are in. If you have to move your fair as it gets bigger, or some other issues come up, you have to move dates or something, so you have to move your location, make it a general name for your festival. A person's name, Misty Hills, Misty Mountains, something that would not infringe on a copyright. Or that another festival has that name. If you ask me, I can let you know, or you can look on the intrawebs to see if the festival has the name already that you want to use. So join me this day, and we'll go through these different locations. Let us begin. This is Chandler Park. It's on the west side of Tulsa on 21st Street, just as it turns into Avery Drive going towards Sand Springs to the west. Avery Drive borders the Arkansas River. There are adequate access means to get to the park. There's a new extension to the Tisdale Expressway on the northwest side of Tulsa, which will drop you off literally 1/10 of a mile from the gate to this park. This park has been used before in 2008 through 2010 for the King's Medieval Fair, and in the early 2000s till perhaps 2012 or 11, the Oklahoma Scottish Games were here. So it has plenty of room to host a festival. This park is gigantic. It is gigantic. You can see depth, you can see cars down there, trees go on and on and on. There's a paved asphalt road that winds its way through the park, so you can pull up to the side of where you want to set up a booth or a stage, unload your gear, and just have great access to where you want to present yourself. There are several areas in this park. This is just one of them. You could host a festival. Down back where these cars are and behind is where the 2009 and 10 King's Medieval Fair was held. But when we held it here, I was on the board for that, the tents were too spread out. If you have a smaller event starting out, you do not want to get them 30 or 40 yards between tents, so someone has to travel. Oh, I do not want to go see a tent. I am tired. I've walked all day. Keep them close together. You may have to put your stages on opposite sides if you start out with a smaller fair and you have 2 stages, so the noise does not drown out one from the other. Ample space here, ample trees. I will show a few other parts of this park as well. Now back up, Craig Meister. A couple of the tips for starting. This area I am filming at is mayhaps, I do not know, 3/4 of a mile inside the gate, perhaps a mile inside the gate at Chandler Park. I'm painting so very slowly. Right here, there's an open field with children's area right next to 2 playgrounds, in fact. And I used those privies over there where that person's walking between. Those are the cleanest privies I've ever been in my life. They were at a park. Look at you right there, the green roof. Cleanest ever. I could not believe how nice and immaculately kept those were. Behind there is the community center. They have a gymnasium inside and offices and places for ballroom dances. So just to my right, just to my north here, you can hear a train. That would be one of the only noises here you would experience at the park. But with performers going on, people bartering in booths and cheering, you would not hear that train. It would be drowned out. There's a nice wide open field here, which would be excellent for archery and trebuchets. I went and looked at the ground. It is not really even. Flat and smooth and even for jousting, in my opinion. I am not a jouster, so perhaps a horseman and his troop could come say, oh, we could do that there. Craig Meister does not know what he's talking about in that regard. So if you want to check out this site, that would be a good one for open air area, or mayhaps parking. They used to have parking over there where this playground used to be in 2010. Pardon me, when we had our last King's Medieval Fair. And I'm slowly panning in here just to show you a little bit more of the huge wooded area here. Now there are disc golf goals, I believe you can see in the distance, but I'm sure with the festivals here, the players are used to finding another venue for the weekend, one weekend once in a while. An amazing area here. I need to come spend more time here even when there's not a festival going on. This section of Chandler Park is a little farther deep into the park. Off in the distance you can see a school bus. That is where the children's area was in my earliest section. My first section off here to my right, which would be my east at this point. There's a picnic shelter. One could have as a staging area for some attractions. But off here to the left side of the road, if you want to start small, there are trees here on a gentle slope, and you could start amongst those trees if you had a really small event to start with. If you did advertise and say we're Renaissance Fair in Chandler Park, you may want to say we're very small, because if people see that, you may get swarmed by thousands of people, hopefully. And expect something large. So if you do start small, this is a decent area for that. Mayhaps to be a little more amicable, a little better for jousting right over in here. There's a gentle slope there. I think that would be good for jousting. Again, archery, that may not be far enough for archery or trebuchet if you do long shots. But plenty of room for stages and vendors. One picnic shelter there for one table. This is a closer possible venue towards the entrance of Chandler Park. I'm looking at the entry road, and you can see one of the buildings, a few of the buildings of downtown Tulsa in the background. Over here they have a service center in the background with many trucks and cars. So just past that, we have a nice shaded area here with fleshies right there. Although an event of any size would still require porta fleshies. And going through many trees here, you can set up booths here in the trees. And there's an open field. That open field back there is the one I was looking at from the other side. I said would not be great for jousting, but great for archery and trebuchets. So we have a picnic shelter here. Sell food or wares out of that. Parking could come along here up in the sides, off the side of the road. There are a few open areas for stages, or if you want a shaded stage. Wonderful for that as well. There's a little bit of gravel parking down there on the corner. I believe rock climbers go down there from time to time. Here comes a carriage. Now there is a lower section to the park on the north side as you come in to Chandler. However, it is long and skinny. Parking is not adequate for a festival. Again, it would have to be really small. And if someone sees there's a festival going on in Chandler Park, they're going to think it's going to be large and lots of areas to park in. So this would be another small section one could use here just on the left side, which would be the south side of the entry road. This location is Sand Springs Case Community Park. It is along the Arkansas River. It's the north side of Arkansas River. And to access the park, you go west of Highway 97 on Waukee Road. So it's west of the Walmart. And there's an entrance over there. There's a community center at the entrance. And there's a very large, long park. Open spaces where you need them. It would be great for jousting over there. It may have to be long enough for long shots of archery as well as trebuchet. There are plenty of trees scattered out. There's parking along here because they have different events and venues to go on. As on the east side here, I'm about to pan around. This is not even the farthest part of the east side. There's a softball field, and beyond that is a BMX bicycle racing area. So very nice. Pardon me. Very much room for an event to expand. Ample parking, and I will go back a little bit closer to the beginning of the park where you can see more amenities. This is the east end of Case Community Park, and it is wide open. There are a few trees mostly along the perimeter, but it just goes on and on and on. Surprise, there are disc golf goals all over here. I'm sure they could handle being off for one weekend or two if you want to have a 2-weekend event as is becoming the rage in the area in case there's rain one weekend. Back there in the distance, that is the BMX bicycling area. There is ample parking. I believe this parking lot I'm standing on now was not even in the maps, the satellite photos, so it's easily 120, 150 parking places here, easily. Ample parking. Huzzah! Trees, good breeze out of the southeast, unabated across the river. Coming from the north, maybe a little more blocked, but not a whole lot. Good land there. Archery, trebuchets, huzzah! Right past the entrance to the park, there are several softball fields and soccer fields, and a creek running through it. However, there's not enough room to start a Renaissance festival until you get down close to the river here. Only noise concerns would be mayhaps a factory in the background or trains on the other side of the river. This one blasted its whistle a moment ago as it was going over a crossing. Otherwise, from the dragons, and mayhaps a flying dragon going overhead occasionally, a metal one, this would be a great spot for a Renaissance festival. This is Tulsa's Dreamkeepers Park. It is just north of 21st Street and just east of Riverside Drive. Both of those roads are 4 lanes, so it is easy access. And there's a nice wide open area here for jousting, archery, trebuchets, a bird of prey show, plenty of room for a few stages, as well as lots of vendor booth room. There's shade bordering the entire park, and back in here is a picnic shelter, which I'll go to in a moment. There are tables over there, and there are privies. However, the privies are old, so any festival of any size here would definitely need to bring porta privies. There's parking here, mayhaps 30 spots right on the park. However, there is ample parking nearby. And the businesses around just to the west and north and northeast of the park. I counted mayhaps 300 spots from some of the other areas. And this street, I'm going along here, these cars are driving this Boulder Avenue. And up this hill is where a lot of the parking is. And behind this bank, just on the northeast side of the venue. I'm under the picnic shelter now. There are even small trees growing here in the southeast corner of the site. The southeast corner is a little bit higher than the rest of the park. However, it's not level enough. It does not appear for Highland games. For any of you Scottish fans. There is an area here one could throw hammers out of, I imagine, but oh well. This festival site has hosted several reggae fests in Tulsa and other musical festivals. And there are 6 tables underneath this picnic shelter. And they're doing a little bit of maintenance work this day in early November. Concrete area there and a paved sidewalk going back to the on-site parking lot. As far as camping goes, one would have to contact the city to find out if vendors or performers or patrons, I doubt patrons could camp here, but it's quite a good site. This venue is Glenpool's Black Gold Park. It is located at 141st Street South and Highway 75, otherwise known as the B-Line. In the past few years, they've put in this overpass, and they're almost through with the work on it. But I noticed the other day driving south, which from this angle is from right to left, that cars would have a hard time seeing over the new higher center median. So if you wanted to have a festival here and attract the attention of those southbound drivers, one would have to have tall attractions here, perhaps a pirate ship, or kites flying in the air, flags on tall poles, or something else unique I've not thought of. This ground is very good. It's flat and wide open, good for jousting, archery, trebuchets, and of course a stage or two, and plenty of places for vendor booths. Now I'm standing under a little shelter here where they have sales of popcorn and snow cones and snacks like that for certain events. And also there are tables here, people can get out of the sun. As far as parking goes, there's no large lot around, but they do have other festivals in town, like the Black Gold Festival in the fall. And patrons are used to parking on the streets nearby, or mayhaps at this, I believe that's a bank right there. I can walk over and enjoy the festival. There's also a path over here all the way around, an asphalt path that encircles the lot, so people with vans, trucks, trailers could pull up next to where they need to be to set up a tent or work on a stage, establish some kind of tall attraction, and not have to go through the grass. If you're lucky, the city would allow people to park in some of the grass. You could rope it off to help with additional parking, and you would have to check with the city to find out if people could camp in their booths, sleep in their booths, and maybe perhaps their vehicles. I doubt there would be public camping. There are very many motels in the area, just 2 miles north of here, and many in Jinx, Tulsa, the rest of the metro. This park was the home of the King's Medieval Fair in the years of our Lord 2019 and 2020. If you would like to see pictures of how it was set up, you can visit my website, meistersrealm.com, and go to the page Relive an Oklahoma Renaissance Fair. The pictures are in there. This is Kiefer Park in Kiefer, Oklahoma. It is located on 151st Street South, just east of Old Highway 75 that runs between Sapulpa and Kiefer. It is easily accessible from the new Highway 75, also known as the B line, the 4-lane road. It was the home of the Faire Medieval Fair between 2016 and 2018. For pictures of it, you can see for those 3 events, you can go to meistersrealm.com and scroll down on the page called Relive an Oklahoma Renaissance Fair. You can see the gazebo there, which makes for an excellent stage. One could also change that up and put a stage on opposite corners of the event. The Festival of the Solage, that at least one year that there were vendors placed inside this baseball field just to the north of the park site. There are concession stands here with a couple of privies in the back. However, if you had a festival of any size, you would also want some porta privies. Now, just here to the left, which is the west side of the park, there is a train track. And as I recall, trains ran through maybe twice a day. And if the city would allow camping for vendors or performers, mayhaps they would wake everyone up in the middle of the night once or twice, because there is a crossing here just on the southwest corner of the park, and the trains blare their horns going through. I'm now perched inside the gazebo, looking towards the east side of the festival. You can see that path there. Below the path is a nice, large, wide, open, mostly flat field, which would be good for jousting, archery, and trebuchets. You can see a little ditch on the other side of there. That ditch is impassable. You cannot get a car through that. It is wide enough that people would not have a good time getting across there either. During the Faire Fair, some of the vendors parked over there, or performers, but it does not have a good look in the background for cars to be right there next to the festival. I'm panning around slowly now along 151st Street. The noise concern from the road, it blends into the background from most cars and trucks. So that would be the only part other than the train tracks. So the site, it was a very good time here when they had the 3 festivals. As far as parking is concerned, here just on the other side of this white rail, there's parking for, oh goodness, you might get 40 or 50 vehicles in here. And the parking goes, I believe, all the way up to these baseball fields off to the north. Now, there is a high school, perhaps a half mile, 3/4 of a mile east of here on 151st Street with a lot of parking. So perhaps one could run shuttles, a couple of shuttles back and forth for the patrons. This is a very nice event area. Good shade through a lot of it. And where the places that are not shade, people could have tents and set up perhaps those covers that they have over stages. They're kind of see-through, kind of like netting around a tennis court. I highly recommend this event, festival site, for a park, good, especially for a good starting park. This immense site is Bixby's Bentley Baseball Complex and Park. It is at 138th Street South and Memorial Avenue. Bixby's on the south side of the Tulsa metro area, for those who do not know. There are hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 or more parking places here. I'm zoomed in right now towards the middle of the park at a lowered area, and mayhaps it is a retention pond during rainy seasons. I am sure that in the fall this would never fill up in this part of Oklahoma. Also in the fall, if you chose to do a festival here, you would not have to worry about as many baseball games, so fewer parking places would be taken. It is just south of the Arkansas River, and I'm panning slowly, ever so slowly, to some of the parking. During late June, they hold a huge fireworks display here, so they are used to large crowds of people here. They bring in food trucks galore, have a whole day festival event. The Arkansas River is just down the bank from that large tree there, and it follows the length of the park on its north side. So here you have playground area for children, more playground, many softball fields. Well, I guess baseball fields. It does not say softball. They extend on and on and on here. This would probably be the best place. I'm sure one could get a vehicle down into that pit, trailers for vendors, and otherwise they've not been able to set up those poles or be able to get people down in there to mow the fields. It rains here in Oklahoma. There are flushies through here. There's a flushie just right here by this Cintas truck. I do not know if they make them available, but they could handle large amounts of people here. I do believe for the Independence Day they also bring in flushies. So this would be a good site. There'd be no camping for patrons, I'm quite sure here. I'm unsure about vendor camping. This venue is Tulsa's Hunter Park, located on 91st Street between Yale and Sheridan Avenues. The parking lot will hold over 100 cars. You can see a tin roof there, metal roof for a flushie, although I do not believe it would be large enough for any large size fair. We're in the back of the park itself, and you can see some playground equipment. There's a playground here for children, as well as a large picnic shelter. And very slowly spinning through this tree. On the back, there's a large open area. There's some small trees growing now, and in a few years, they'll be large enough to throw out much more shade in the afternoons. One could intersperse booths and tents between them. And over to the right is a nice open field for more booths, stages, jousting, and archery. As well as what, Craig? Meister? A trebuchet! Huzzah! This also does butt up against a housing addition, but they are used to events going on here. They do have disc golf in the park. Just 2 holes right here. So mayhaps if there's a festival going on here, the city could let disc players know with signs not to be able to play that weekend. There's a bit of a rise here beyond this disc golf, and you can see a little stone table that is in the middle of a labyrinth, which is painted on a large concrete pad there. So up here at the top of the hill, there's no chance for flooding. The only risk of noise usually would be the Creek Turnpike, which is back at the back end of the park, behind this wall. Pardon me. There is a kind of a heavy a drone of sound from it on that wall right there. But it kind of blends into the background, especially if one had music playing, crowds cheering, horses galloping, it would fade into the background. There is a fire station at the front of the park, but it is down the hill about a half mile away, and it faces the other way, so the sirens are hard to hear. There would be no camping for patrons in the park, I'm sure. One would have to check with the City of Tulsa Parks Department to find out if vendors could camp inside their booths. I'm now at the northeast corner of Hunter Park, looking at the cars going down 91st Street. It is at the bottom of the hill. There's the fire station I mentioned before, which the doors for the trucks, when they hit the road, go the other way. This is the most scenic part of Hunter Park. There's a creek down here, and although there is a creek, no matter how much it has ever rained, the water does not get out of the bank of the creeks. As mentioned before, there is a disc golf course here. So if you have an event, the city would be able to tell the players not to come play that weekend or Friday and perhaps Thursday for setup. They've had tournaments here before, so the regular casual recreational players have been known to have to skip a weekend or so, or even a week for those tournaments when the pros come in. This field is gorgeous down here. There's many large trees, great shade. However, the daunting task is to get equipment down to this part of the park. Here, there's a large ditch in front of me. I'll try to go slow. I wish I had steady cam. Which it would be difficult to get many carts or provisions over this large ditch on this would be the north central part of the park. There is a bridge right there that is new. So if you wanted to haul in things from back there by the fire station, there's a gravel parking lot. It would be quite a haul. However, there are more prospects on the other side of this ditch. I will cross it and pick up in a moment. This is the canopied area between the trees, and it goes back to the end there. There's absolutely 1/2 of a mile from there to the fire station on the north end of the park. This would be such a wonderful event. Oh my goodness, you could have 2 or 3 stages here, and the music would not overlap with other music or performers doing juggling or fire breathing or whatever. You would not drown them out. This is just gorgeous here. I'm now about 2/3 of the way back into the park, and again it also butts up against the housing addition, but there's I guess an easement for utilities right here where one could bring in cars if allowed by the city, and trucks to set things up, to bring things into the fair. I'm now at the south end of the open area on the northeast part of Hunter Park. And there's another easement, another electrical easement, this time for power lines overhead. And there's a street, 2 streets that intersect right over there. And on Tulsa maps, that is East 93rd Place and South Lakewood Avenue. So I can come put some 2x4s on the street so people can hop up on the curb, bring vehicles in here, in trailers, vans, cars, pickups, and set things up. This is a gorgeous area. The noise is off to the left here, past these woods. That is again the Creek Turnpike, but the trees really deaden the sound to dull roar, especially when there are leaves on the trees, not in the middle of winter. Up this hill and over to the left is a dog park, and that dog park is below the top area of Hunter Park on the south side that I showed earlier. Again, this creek does not flood. Probably no camping, I'm sure, for patrons. The biggest challenge for bringing a festival to this part of the park is parking. Perhaps parking. Someone could overcome that and bring shuttles in through these 2 easements, or to the north end of the side over by the fire station. Let people in the fair would be a lot of walking, but if they came through these easements, it would so be worth it. Such a wonderful sight in Tulsa. This venue is Broken Arrow's Neenheis Park on the northeast side of town. It is off Juneau and Lynn Lane. That is on Tulsa street terms, that is about 55th Street South and 177th East Avenue. In the distance, you can see a fire station. There are the doors for the fire station. Is right next to the entrance to the park. There's a stoplight there. That would be the only loud noise that would distract from and take away from the Renaissance effect. but the fire trucks go out the other way, so they would not be as much of a sound hindrance. There's a little bit of a road you can see right below the doors there. That is the entrance road. Come in, follow it, take the first right on the traffic circle, and it comes in here to the back of the park, which is a half mile from the front. And there's a large parking lot here. I counted the places the other day. I think there are about 108 parking places right here to start a fair from. Now you could bring it up here on this hill upon which I stand. Back out a little bit. On this side of that paved trail, which I imagine, I know cars can go on because they make it large enough for perhaps police vehicles or mayhaps ambulances, I'm unsure. But there's disc golf on the other side of that ramp, nothing on top of this hill. If you need something to drive. And this goes butts up to a housing addition. If you want to be up here on the Highlands, perhaps you could do Highland games up here, huh? Had not thought of that. There's a soul tree right there. But I believe the best place to have a Renaissance fair would be under these trees, just on the other side of the road. There's a slight ditch that goes, that's in between the front and the back row of those trees. It'd be too much to pull a cart across or some other wheeled device. But every Saturday, it used to be every Saturday at noon, a group of loppers would come out here and fight with each other just on the other side of that white SUV. That is the hill upon which I was just standing. Now I'm down among the trees where the loppers gather. There's a drainage ditch here with a little bit of water in it, but it is not a creek. It will not flood. And it is much cooler down here than it was on top of that hill. So there's plenty of shade set up, booths or other attractions, stages for performers. And here just behind the trees are a few football fields, which are reserved by the Broken Arrow Youth Football. But if you catch it on the right weekend, you could come out here. There's plenty of room for jousting, archery, huzzah, and even firing trebuchets. So that would be wonderful. Or anything else you need out in the wide open. If you had a lot of tents to set up, they can set up out there. There are a few football fields that sometimes have games on Friday nights, mayhaps Saturdays in the distance. They're working on one right now. But again, if you catch it on the right weekend, you would not have to be concerned about noise from them. Or mayhaps soccer in the springtime. Here are more of the trees in this nice little section of Nienhuis Park. There are no fleshies in Nienhuis Park. You have to bring your own, but it is very accessible for vans, SUVs, and trailers. That 177th East Avenue, Lynn Lane, is 4-lane road, so it is easy to get to off of the Muskogee Turnpike, Highway 51. This is Broken Arrow's Events Park on the east side of town, right next to the east leg of the Creek Turnpike. This was built and opened, I believe, in 2016, and has a wonderful pond here on the south end of the park, which will be a wonderful, wonderful place for a Renaissance Festival. Up here at the top of this hill, going along all along there, is where they normally hold the Oklahoma Scottish Games. Being Highland people, they take the Highlands, and they've not put much down here towards the creek and the pond under the trees before. The main noise setback would be the highway over there. I do not believe there are any railroad tracks or fire stations around here. This would be a wonderful, wonderful field to do jousting and archery and firing trebuchets on. One of the prohibitions to this park for many years was the poor parking. But now on the east side, there is a new parking lot, which I imagine would hold 300 or more cars, which has just opened up. There's good access here to this area. This trail here is double layered asphalt, so I'm sure you can get a van or a truck with a trailer for anyone who's vending, or a horse trailer for said open area for the joust. So they built this new bridge here to get from the east side of the park over to where they have the Scott Fest normally, and I will sojourn over there. Now this is the other side of the bridge. This is the layout of the pond, and zooming up the hill where they have the Scott Fest. And the reason they've put this bridge in and started improving the park in 2023 is because up on top of the hill there, they're building a large amphitheater to bring in concerts. So you have to get the right weekend to do a festival here. There's no threat from any kind of flooding. However, there are no flushies in the park as of right now. And you'd have to bring in porta potties. And there's lots of land as they finish up improvements, lots of land to finish fixing, get rid of the flashing over there and the fencing, and more sod to be laid down. I'm standing right next to sod here, so I know they're going to continue it. Pardon me. It's a very lovely area. You'd have to contact Broken Arrow Parks Department. It may cost quite a bit of money to set up here, as it is such a large event place and set up just for events. So I'm not sure of the cost. This is a view looking south and southwest from the bridge. Wonderful, wonderful area. I'll pan so slowly just to not make anyone sick. There's still plenty of room on the other side of this bridge for a festival. Some of the booths at the Scott Fest come down a little bit into this patch of trees here. This is the first place I looked at when it first opened in the year of our Lord 2016 to start a festival. So this part would still be nice amongst the trees, as long as there's not noise from a concert going on. It would totally flood the park, I'm sure. This is the northeast side of Tulsa's Mohawk Park, which is located at 46th Street North and about Sheridan Avenue. It is where the Tulsa Zoo is, and just northwest of the Tulsa International Airport. This area is cleared out for the most part. In this section of the park, I do not know how many acres I'm looking at of an open field here. It must be at least 20 acres, maybe 40 or more. I'm unsure. This site right here, this opening, has been the home of many musical festivals, and Tulsa Powwow has been here in the past. So it is able to handle many tens of thousands of people. Parking would have to be in the grass. I remember at one music festival, there was parking on the other side of some of the trees, and there was a pathway to get over here, and it was in the grass. All of it very well laid out. The noise concerns here would be occasional jets flying over from TIA, Tulsa International Airport, but that should be it. There may be train tracks somewhere near here, if I recall now. There are no privies at this part of the park, and if you're gonna have a festival that could fill this, even with cars and booths, stages, etc., you would need a lot of porta privies. Let me see. Of course, this area would be fantastic for jousting. You could have separate areas for jousting, a separate area for trebuchets, a separate area for archery.
You do not have to do them all at the same time unless you have a mega-sized event somewhat approaching the Norman medieval fair that goes on in the spring in Oklahoma. I am just to the southwest side of the open area at Mohawk Park I was just filming at, which is apparently a polo field. Now, if you want to start small, pardon me, and still use Mohawk Park, there are several other open areas before you get to that field. If you start small, you would not need as much parking, of course. So over here, this is just shy of that area. There's a little picnic shelter in there. You could use that for food, taking tickets, selling merchandise out of. Anything you would like. Using it for a green room, perhaps, for the entertainers. And over here towards the left, there's plenty of shade, still room. Mayhaps not enough for a jousting troupe yet, but you could do some, have booths here, a stage, also some ground fighters, mayhaps 2 stages if you went to the other side of the road over there. On that side, you could expand out. I guess you must have noticed a couple of disc golf goals there. I'm sure they would not mind shutting this down for the weekend for a festival. I'm going to pan through some trees slowly here because just to my left now is kind of an open grove area, and oh my word is what you could do with this. It has been cleared out, it looks like, for another disc golf hole. But look at the way the sun is coming into there. Breaking in, there's plenty of space between those trees. You probably could not get a 10 by 10 canopy in there. However, you could get all kinds of events or things going on, perhaps for children. I'm reminded of kind of a hidden grove 20 years ago, the early 2000s, at the Bridgewater Renaissance Festival in Baxter Springs, Kansas, which to this day remains one of my favorites. I wish it was still going on. So this is enchanting to me. There's another one just off to the southwest. Okay, to give a reference point, there's a playground, children's playground over there, which could be an attraction for hosting a festival in this part. And I'm panning over to this other open area amongst the trees. Has been cleared out, while not nearly as picturesque as the other one. This could still be used for something. You could put a stage back there or in the other one and bring in performers. Kind of depending on the time of year, if there's the trees have bloomed out, you can have a little bit of shelter from other noise and just have an own little secluded area there for patrons to go enjoy a show or games or listen to storytellers or some other magical attraction. I'm now inside the little grove here, the second one. And for reference again, there's that little picnic shelter one could use for a green room or for feeding people, selling merchandise. The trees in here are so well spaced. I am just enchanted with this area. Mayhaps it has given me flashbacks of the old King Arthur Fair from also the early 2000s and late 1990s in Stroud, Oklahoma. This is an amazing place. Of course, this is part of a disc golf course, and I will definitely be back here with my nephew soon because this is rapidly becoming mayhaps one of my favorite choices for someone to build a Renaissance fair. I had to put one on in the Tulsa Metro. I thought I had some other sites that were better, and this is far from my home, but this is just enchanting and gorgeous. Huzzah! There is still yet another area at Mohawk Park that could be used. Renfaire, again, there is a picnic shelter. Further on beyond that is the open field I started out at. So going this way. There's a children's playground I mentioned in the segment across the path over by the woods. And many children can come over here and get their energy worked out while one of the other parents is over in the Renaissance Fair. A lot of trees here in this field, going back to that other picnic shelter way back there. Where it could also, if need be, if your event gets big enough, it could host food vendors, sell merchandise or other things, and lots of open area. You could have jousting in here, archery, trebuchets might be a tall order. There are privies right there. Still, over here you probably want quarter privies. There's a large field over here for all those cars on the other side of the road. That is zoo parking. I believe this weekend is trunk or treat. So I've never seen that many cars over at the zoo. I was wondering, are there elephants giving birth this weekend? What is the big attraction? And I figured it out. I saw lots of children in costumes. So this would be a good area as well. Parking is aplenty. They could let people park on the grass. And there's several paved areas. Camping for this park, I'm unsure of. I believe this is run by the city of Tulsa, not by the Tulsa County. So check with them first to check on camping. Surely that would be allowed. Do the festival events, mayhaps just for the vendors and performers, but who knows, mayhaps for patrons as well. Now this is Hakey Creek Park in southern Broken Arrow. It is along Garnett Road between 111th Street South and 121st Street South. There are areas for children's playgrounds, picnic shelters, and a few plushies here. But if you have a festival of any size, as usual, you would want to hire some plushies, rent some plushies. Pardon me. Now there are several parking areas scattered along the west side of Garnett, and they can handle anywhere between 40 and mayhaps 70 cars each. And you could park in the grass along the roads. I've seen that done here. I'm unsure about camping in the park. One would have to, of course, check with the city to find out about that. For vendors, performers, I doubt they would have camping for patrons. I'm panning around now to the east side of the park. On the other side of Garnett, there are two large open areas that would be good for jousting, trebuchets, and archery. However, they would be spread out quite a ways from everything going on the west side, and one would have to cross the street where the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. Now I've seen events here, picnics, mayhaps family reunions, company picnics, and there is some festival they hold in the park, although I'm unsure exactly what it is or when it is held. Being called Hakey Creek Park, it has Hakey Creek running along the west side of it, and it can flood in the spring. It may happen every 6 or 7 years, and they shut down the road here, but I do not know how deep the water may get here in the park. This is the northern edge of the park, and we will see in a moment. This is the northern edge of the park, and in a moment I will go down to the southern edge, but it is also quite large. This is the south end of Hakey Creek Park. There's some more permanent plushies, a picnic shelter, and this is the area where I've seen a company picnic not too many months ago. They held quite a few people. They had a lot of activities going on. It was well spread out. They had enough parking places here in this little circle area and in the grass around it to host at least 100 cars. So if you scatter through the park, pardon me, you could get many people here. You can see the disc golf goals there. The players could adapt. They could play on the other side of the road if need be, or at another park. There's several around the Tulsa area. Ample room to start a Renaissance festival here. If you had the parking, it could grow quite large actually.
As of right now, when I'm filming this video, in the fall, in the year of our Lord 2025, there would be about 2 really good weekends. You could have the festival where they're not stepped on by other nearby events. One would be the first weekend of March. That may contradict with the Tulsa Irish Festival, but that is a different crowd that attends that. It is usually It usually holds performers now that probably do not perform in parks. They used to be inside or in big tents like one would find in an Oktoberfest or a Scottfest. Two totally different crowds. One could also use the third weekend of October right now. That is the weekend after the Kansas City Renaissance Festival ends. So you may be able to pull performers down from Bonner Springs, Kansas, and vendors as well. They may be looking for another gig in that region. The first weekend of October may be a little warm some years, but that one would probably be good as well. The only nearby competition from that would be Central Arkansas, down east of Little Rock. So you would have people here that would come this far to perform and vend, that they would not come all the way from Central Arkansas to come up here. And of course you would have all the population that would come to the Renaissance Festival. Second weekend, you're still stepping on Kansas City, but you could do it that weekend as well. Another benefit of the fall, it usually does not rain and storm as much as the springtime. So third weekend of fall, the weather is usually good enough and be prime time. When you're ready to start a Renaissance Festival, contact me, Craig Meister, and you can find me on the Book of Faces or Craig at meistersrealm.com. Send me an email and I'd be happy to advise you on the festival and also tell you what other events are going on.